Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. In this episode, we're going to be handling a little bit of the weathering and a little bit of detail work on the interior, and just really happy to be here. Thanks so much for watching. Cue the intro!
That's my line. As Mini-Me so eloquently put, welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's week 10 of the Axial Honcho Budget Build-Off. We are back. We are not spending any money this week. Well, we're spending a little bit, but not very much. The idea here was to save up a few dollars for next week, as I've got a couple of more expensive purchases coming, and I wanted to make sure that I had some funds set aside for that. So this week, I decided to paint the interior, finally, geez, and also do some how-tos on weathering. Weathering is always a very fun topic, and it's something that I get a lot of enjoyment out of, because a shiny new truck is nice, but there's something really cool about being able to take that shiny new truck and make it look old. I really like that, and that's going to be the focus of the how-to portion of this segment today. First of all, let's take a look at this interior. It's finally painted, and you can see that I've done a little bit of weathering, and I've finally mounted the seats. I still think there's a lot of room for some detail work to be done here, but this is the basics and getting started to finally complete that interior. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I used a combination of Tamiya paints and some washes from Vallejo. I will do my best to link to all of these products. Some of them I picked up locally, so they're not going to be as easy for you to source, but if you have a hobby shop nearby that carries a lot of static models, you'll find a lot of these washes and a lot of these paints, as they're all the small bottles and none of them are rattle cans. So I did use an airbrush. You don't necessarily need to use an airbrush. You can use brushes instead of airbrushing. Of course, it still works. You just thin it down a little bit more than you would with an airbrush, and you won't get any brush strokes. So not a big deal there, of course. Overall, it's a nice look. It's brown, which matches the rest of the interior quite nicely, and also matches the exterior color of this body. It's just nice. I thought black would have been a little heavy, and brown gives you a little bit of fun. You can play with some of the color and some of the textures, and it really kind of brings this whole thing to life. You will note as well that those Axial Corbeau seats got a little dusting with the airbrush as well, just to give them a bit of a weathered appearance and to make it so they're not shiny and black and brand new. Very happy with the results. Took a few hours to paint, so couldn't do a time lapse or a demo on that, but I am going to give you a demo on how to do some of the weathering on the exterior of the body. First things first, what we're going to do today is we're going to create sort of a dusted appearance to the exterior of the body. And one of the things that a lot of people do when they do this is they don't mask off the windows. Now, a wiper leaves a wiper mark as it goes through its range of motion. So what we're going to do is we're going to mask out that area first. What I quite literally do is tape a piece of masking tape onto the window, and then I trace out the top end of the wiper and the bottom end of the wiper through its range of motion. I do that on both sides, and then what I do is I take a nice sharp hobby blade, I take that piece of tape off of the windshield first, lay it down on a nice steady surface that I can cut on, use my Excel hobby blade, cut that shape out, and reapply it to the windshield. That way, when I'm doing the next step, I leave the window area where the wipers would wipe clean. Yes. Once I've got that tape back in position, we're on to the next step, and this is probably the most fun and easy part of weathering, if I'm honest. I've taken the body off of the chassis. I've got it in a box, so I'm not spraying paint everywhere in my workshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little dusting with either a light tan or a brown or whatever you've got on hand, either rattle can or airbrush. I'm using an airbrush this time, but a rattle can works exactly the same way. Spray very lightly, just quick little spritz, psh, 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 in a couple of different areas around the front of the body. And that paint is going to fly onto that body and make it appear as if it's dust coming off of the trail or what have you. It's going to be a very simple but very effective way to give your truck a little bit of weathering. Once you've done that spray a few times, doesn't have to be a lot. It's always best, I find, to think to myself, have I done too much? And if I'm thinking that already, I've probably done enough. And that's where I stop. It's definitely by feel, and it's going to take you a couple of practice tries to get it right. Maybe even don't spray the body first. Try it on a scrap piece of Lexan, or even another cardboard box, whatever you have handy, just to try it out and experiment a little bit. Once I've done that, I remove the masking tape from the wiper area and to reveal the clean window underneath. I think it adds a lot of complexity and a lot of depth to the existing body. It's definitely one of my favorite little tricks, and I love adding this to all of my Lexan bodies that I want to have that weathered appearance on. Additionally, I talked a little bit earlier about washes. Washes are essentially just thinned down paint, and you can use these to add depth and texture to a lot of different parts of the body, or in fact to the Honcho cage itself. I've used a little bit of a wash that I add here to make it appear as if the diamond plate has got a little bit of dust on it as well. You can use the same misting technique that I used earlier. It all works, and I think it just makes the whole truck look even more your own than it did already. I'll give myself a budget of $25 this week spent on paint and supplies. I think that's fair. It's not a cheap week, it's not an expensive week, but it is a week that does a little bit more to give us a little more of that artistic expression and to really kind of define this as our own truck. So there you have it. Tally for the week. $25 spent. From the previous week, I've got a bunch of money left over on my laptop in front of me again. All right, proper tally for the week. With the remainder from last week, I had $85.92 to spend this week. I spent $25, leaving me a remainder of $60.92. Man, I'm saving money. This is great. I cannot wait to show you what I've got going in week 11. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. It's very much appreciated. The comments, the subscribers, the likes, it's all the best. And I really feel honored that you're watching this and hopefully getting something out of it. This is actually my 100th video on YouTube in the Scale Builders Guild format. It's really just for the love of the hobby and making sure that we all get something out of it and building an awesome community around that. So thanks again, it's very much appreciated. We will see you again in week 11. I don't have a very humorous way of ending this.